This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, but you can call me Foo, hence the name of the podcast. And today I have a very special guest. His name is Gary Brackett. He's an ex-NFL player, a captain of a Super Bowl team, and he's now the founder of Champ Builders. He's a business coach, and I'm going to let him tell you more about that. But first, Gary, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. We started kind of like, oh, we got to set up the things, some technical difficulties, but we figure it out. And I'm excited to dive into your story. So let's kick it off with a quick background, because I wanna talk a little bit about that NFL and being a captain, that leadership, and how you translated that into business, and then take it from there. So go ahead.
So I think like a lot of your listeners, I was an underdog. I'm 5'10", 230 pounds, not your typical NFL size and height, right? So I was a walk-on in college, so didn't get a scholarship, going to Rutgers University, almost got kicked out of school because I couldn't afford to pay my third year there. My parents had refied the house, did everything they could, and thank God I was able to get a scholarship. And that moment kind of changed my life, because I can remember when I got a scholarship, I went to the weight room and I'm excited, and I'm telling all my friends, and then one of the guys that was in there, he looked at me and was like, "Scholarship, you should worry about starting." And in my mind, I'm just like, man, I just wanted a little scholarship, graduate, get my school paid for, go get me a job, just this normal life. But then when he challenged me, said, "You should be starting," I think initially I wanted to start, but I think life happens in a way that it starts beating you down, and some of your dreams you start giving up on, and you just start accepting the status quo. And that really reset my mindset. No, you should be the starter. And then I asked myself that night, all right, what would I have to do to be the starter? And I made this long list of everything I had to do and what I had to commit to. The next day I committed to that list. Man, I was a starter, two-time captain, two-time MVP, and now I'm in the Rutgers Hall of Fame. And it's just to say, not about me and my story, but I think it happens to so many other people. I just feel like so many people are one decision away from changing their life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's it's a similar thing in business, because business is a sport. It's a sport,
Yeah.
and that's why I know that, that similarities of going to be a leader in the field to now being a leader in business. It's just, when you're in and especially in NFL, it's kind of like you go to war, right? You have your war buddies, you go to war, and it's no different when in business, right? It's there's a competition, there is a lot of sacrifice that need to be made, a lot of commitments that you need to be made to grow as a person and as a professional. So I can see how you relate that to the people in the audience, right? Because we have a lot of people just starting out their business or thinking about starting out, or maybe even 7, 8, or even 9 figures that being listening to this podcast. So there's everything here, and people can relate to this. So thank you for giving us that little story, so we understand that background, and for us to get inspired and get perspective to be able to use that to be like, hey, yeah, I feel like an underdog right now, but I know I just have to reverse engineer. Okay, I want to be 7-figure business. So what does a 7-figure business owner does? And let's commit to those things. So yeah, that's what it got me thinking. So thank you for that.
Yeah, because the crazy part is so many people. I had a reel earlier this year that so many people want the 7-figure salary, but don't want to implement the 7-figure habits that's going to get you to that salary. And it's the work has to come before the reward. You have to sow the seed for it to grow into this beautiful blossom forest. And so many people aren't sowing the seeds, they're sowing the seed for a little while, they're redigging it and putting it somewhere else, sowing it somewhere else. It's not working fast enough, so they redig it up. And every time you do that, you restart, the track. So it's really about being consistent, being dedicated, understanding that it's going to take some time. But if you fight through, push through, get the right coaches, the right mentors, listen to the right, information, you can succeed.
Yeah, definitely. You made a piece of content that I consume actually that you were saying that, and that's something that it really got me thinking about that when you're saying like, because you can't expect to have a 7-figure business if you're not a 7-figure business owner, right? You gotta become that first, and before the financial part, like you have to have all the skill set or the traits, right? All the commitment. So definitely, that piece of content that you shared, it really hit home. So then, okay, so can you tell us a little bit about how you did that transition, right? Like, okay, you went to like underdog, so now now I'm actually made it. I'm a captain. I'm going to championships, and now it's like, well, I gotta continue life, right? Like the sports was one part of my life, probably one of the most exciting parts of your life, and now it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm transitioning now to this business coach, business strategy. So can you walk us kind of how you did that transition?
Yeah, well, similar story. I went to college, and I mean, after college, went to the NFL, the Indianapolis Colts, and I was a free agent. So pretty much starting the same spectrum as a walk on. Earned my way on the team. 3 years in, I became a captain, the starter. For 6 seasons, I was a captain with Peyton Manning. Fortunate enough to go to 2006, 2007 season. We went to a Super Bowl. We won it. And, I had a great 9-year career. And like you said, all great things come to an end. NFL stands for not for long. The average NFL career is 3.5 years. I played 9. And when I was finished, I was 31 years old. So I had a lot of life to live. So the first thing I did was kind of to retool and get an MBA from George Washington University. And I felt like for me, I realized that we all have these toolboxes that we carry around. But for so many of us, we always pick up the tool that we're most comfortable with. And for me, it was the hammer. And the challenge, leaving the NFL is that when you have a hammer in your hand, every situation looks like a nail, right? And as a business owner, what I realized, like the first tool you got to put away is your hammer, because people will sue you over, the littlest thing. So understanding what tools to use, but then also at the same time sharpening the saw, at the same time recalibrating things. So that's why it's extremely important, no matter what you at, to be a lifelong learner and always, personal development, always want to grow and get better, because it's doing that, right? Is the person you become while making 7 figures is going to help you sustain that once you get there.
Yeah, definitely. It's always like you have so many things at your disposal, and I see a lot of people, and even like I see this noticing my girlfriend, and sometimes even in me, and I catch myself doing it. It's like that either or. It's like, oh no, I either have this or I either have that. Like, and we live in a world that is an and world. Like we can do this, we can do that, and we can use this tool and we can use that, and we can use it different ways. It's all about that strategy and the purpose and everything, that like what is the plan behind it, where's the goal, right? Like, and you're using the right things, and sometimes trying something and it didn't work, and then try something else, right? So it's always making sure that you're sharpening, like you said, right, and calibrating it. Like, you're gonna fail, so accept that, right? So then sometimes, you have a tool, that's not the right tool, just get another tool. You always like reassessing. The market changes too, right? So there's so many different things. So yeah, that's a great advice. So talking about advice, what advice, like actionable steps or some mindset changing advice that you have for people that want to want to succeed, maybe in business coaching, or maybe even as your clients, right? Like, what kind of advice do you have that will be actionable for the audience to be able to take action on right away?
Yeah, a big mindset shift is like, don't think that it should be easy, right? And sometimes we look on social media and Instagram and we see the limelight and people posting all these things. But I tell people at the time, people aren't who they supposed to be. So these same people that you look online that are crushing it are actually in debt, or they're crushing it, and they're like, one thing away from them being miserable. So first thing, word of advice, is the number one thing you should focus on is your happiness and your fulfillment. Now, understand what's required for you to have that. Because I see so many people, put their ladder if you will, on the wrong mountain, the wrong hill. And then they get to the top of that and they're still miserable and they're lonely and they're frustrated. So first of all, you got to know who you are and what you really want. And not only what you want, but why you want it. And when you understand why you want it, it could like you could like really like size it down to something that's actually gonna be manageable for you. Because the next thing I'm gonna tell you is like celebrate the small steps along the journey. So many people feel like they have to wait to the end. If I want to make $1,000,000, right? If I got 900,000 and you start off with 50,000, it's like, no, I don't have 1,000,000. I'm not gonna be happy. It's like, no, bro, you can celebrate. You've done a great job getting thus far to this point. And it's just like enjoying the journey is so critical because so many people, want to keep on delaying that gratification until they actually get there. But man, you gotta celebrate yourself along the way because the outside world don't let them be the ones that clap for you. Because when they stop clapping, then you're gonna be all caught up. The third thing I would take, and this is like a cheat code, is like finding someone who did it and model them. There's like success leaves clues. And in life, no matter what you're doing, I can promise you it's not unique. Or I can promise you someone else did it before, maybe a different type of way. And that's your value proposition. That's what makes you genius, like how you solve that problem. But there's a lot of people who did something similar to you and that you can learn from. So, a lot of my mentors are dead, right? But they wrote books. And it's crazy to me how some people still don't read. And my thought is like, what's the difference between someone who doesn't read versus someone who can't read? It's like there's no difference. So I think reading and educating yourself, there's some valuable information in these books, but then put into action, testing it on the market, not get so caught up in your head, it's not going to work, it is going to work. Like test it out and then get that feedback from the marketplace, and then you can pivot and switch lanes based on data and just not based on you one day thinking one way, the next day thinking another.
Yeah, I completely agree with your 3 points because it describes a lot of like, the advice that I give, the advice that I get, the type of content that I consume. I literally was just replying to a post yesterday that said, actually there was 2 posts from like the same almost group of people that they posted similar. So how important this is, which is the part of like celebrating the wins, right? And that's a big part because it's when you wanted this goal, right? If you feel like, oh, like my check mark in my bucket list, like it's just when I do this, but then if you divide that into small little pieces, right? Okay, so I want to make $1,000,000, but then I know now we reverse engineer what I have to do each day. So today I gotta send 10 outbound messages, follow up with 10 people, and like do like exercise, blah blah, right? Like you put that. So if you finish those things, you can be like, okay, check, like I did this and feel good. And that way it's a way also to tricking your brain in a way to feel that like accomplished, and then the releases dopamine, serotonin, right? And you feel better. So now you can do more work, right? So
Right.
this is like a hack, right? It's like, hey, let me continuously reward myself in small little things, so that way I get motivated, and when you keep that going, then you can work actually more, and then you can get to the actual goal really a lot quicker. So that is a very important thing, and that's something that I tell myself all the time, because I'm a little like most people, right? Like I'm hard on myself sometimes, and be like, damn, like I have all these goals that I want to achieve, and sometimes it's just like there's always like life situations happening. It's like, oh, things that don't go the exact way that you wanted, and then like you were dealing with something and something else happens, right? And sometimes we're humans, right? So there is so much dealing in business. I think one of the hardest things is you're dealing with other humans, and then
Right.
you have to understand how to make them happy, how to keep everything right. Communication is so important. So that's why like having that mindset, right, of making sure that you assign like small little wins so you stay motivated. That's something that has been like very big for me. And then what you said too is like, look, social media should be something that we use to connect and to share, right? It's a medium, but not something that we measure ourselves against, right? Like don't like people are not what they post about it, right? Like you said, like so that is something that I have in mind, and I tell myself all the time, because then I see my friends like going to this game or something. It's like shit, like I'm here grinding out, but then it's the big vision. That's why like having that purpose and that way of knowing yourself and knowing like, okay, this is my goal, this is what I want to do in fulfilling in myself, not just like financial goals, not everything, like what, so you enjoy the journey, right? Like because it's not
Right.
about the goal, it's about also enjoying the journey, that constant pursuit, right? So that's something that definitely
And the crazy part is like, and success is like however you define it. And some people are looking at someone else and how they define the success, and some people are actually winning. There are some people that are posting some things that are winning, but that's their definition of success of how they want to win. I can remember being in the restaurant business at one time. I was a restaurateur, had 10 stores, 400 employees, big operation, and my managers will always look at our competitors and always want to like match or undercut them. And for me, to them, was just like, I don't know what their strategy is. So I don't know what they're trying to accomplish. But while that may be perception of bringing people in, we don't know their P&L. We don't know if this actually working. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like, and so many people get into this race where this race on price, you keep on trying to cut your price. It's like a race to the bottom. So I think you holding firm on what it is, the value that you provide, your value proposition that you offer the marketplace, and standing firm on what it is that you deliver, who you are. And I think it just bodes for a much longer, healthier, business life cycle, as opposed to like constantly looking at someone else and your competitors and chasing something. It's like the shiny object syndrome, right? There's always going to be another shiny object. So you got to be laser focused on what it is that you're after and reverse engineer how you're going to get there, and then mark out on your journey.
definitely that's a very key word for success in general, especially in business. Focus, right? Focus is it right now, especially more than ever. The distractions are in the palm of your hand, in your pocket, everywhere. Like now it's crazy because there's these algorithms in social media and everything. They're designed to feed you exactly what you like, right? And sometimes I feel like even in TikTok, like they know, like the algorithm knows better about you. Like you don't even like it, but because you consume a certain way, like they already know. And it's like there's like drug dealers giving you a drug, right? Like, and your
Yeah.
brain doesn't identify like the difference. Like we have a brain that it's really hasn't caught up with the technological advance, the advances that we are. And now we're doing a big jump now with Chat GPT, right? Like being AI being democratized now, that is just free for everybody. That just happened a couple months ago, right? Like this is just new, like the big. So that's why we have to be very mindful about us, like our mind is not ready for all this, so we have to anticipate that, and then being able to kind of trick ourselves to be able to like focus. So it's like put yourself in like discipline things, like hey, like disconnect the phone or do not
Right.
disturb or certain apps or certain things, so that way you block out that noise, because you can do so much in like 2 to 4 hours of focus work. And I've noticed that it's like, look, I've been putting timers, putting stuff in, like I just like focus, like okay, I eat everything, I don't have anything that hurt, no, let me get comfortable, and now I'm just gonna focus on this. And when I do that, I'm like, damn, like I should be focused more often, so that's what I was saying, like focus is such a big word, and if we master focus, we can master anything, because we can accomplish so much when we get focused. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. So I like talking in here about like also like friction points too, and challenges. So when you are coaching people, um is there, other than the things that we have mentioned, is there any specific friction point that you've have with multiple clients that you have able to solve for them by just giving them a key piece, or just by experience?
Yeah, so this is one thing. You do a good job at it. I do a good job at it, and we know it's a huge differentiation factor, right, in success, right? And it's this ability to go online and communicate effectively with your audience. And so many people who I talk to want to make this distinction between, oh, that's my business and my business page, and I'm over here living this boring lifestyle, and I'm never going to show up online and show people who I am. And I'm just like, you're killing yourself, right? Because people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, and you have this big personality, and you're letting a little bit of pain in your mind punk you out of the promise. And if you showed up and gave the value that you have and offered it for free online, people will do business with you. And there's so many excuses, right? So many fears, so many limited beliefs. I don't like the way my voice sounds. I don't like the way I look. I don't have the fancy equipment. Like you're shooting on the iPhone 12, and it looks fantastic, right? So it's like, so all these things are limitations that we have. And what I try to help them do is like, all right, cool. Depending on your resources, let's control our controls. If you think it's because the lighting and the camera, you can afford so, I set you up to get the biggest thing. That's not it, right? The biggest thing is you having a plan and you showing up and being authentic and talking in front of the camera. And I think when you do that, and when people start get comfortable doing that, that's when I see, not only from a consumer standpoint, seeing the value that you articulate and want to do business with you, even hiring becomes easier, because now I'm just not, getting interviewed or joining a team that has a logo. I'm joining a person who has a vision. I'm joining a person who has passion. I'm joining a person who articulates their message. And all those things are extremely powerful. But until, you pick up that phone, you pick up that camera and press play, like, you're going to always be, the best kept secret. So that's one of the biggest things, especially now with all the features that we have, that's a game changer when people get comfortable going online and speaking up about what it is that they do.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this point, because this aligns perfectly with my mission and vision, my movement, basically. Right. Because my tagline is empowering ideas into movements, right? That's my tagline, and the three pillars for that that I've identified as having branding, and it's not having the perfect logo or the perfect name or anything, just something that people can remember, and then a story that's attached to it that people can relate to, right? So then it stands for something bigger than any individual. Then you go into the content, which that content is where you become digitally omnipresent. That's where you show like yourself, so that way people want to see, like, because it's so much harder to bullshit through video and through being on a podcast and a stage, right? Because it's like so raw, like anybody can write content and stuff, and it's good, like it's good content, writing content is good, but like the video, it has everything, right? And you can transcribe from there and get right. And so when you show up in video, you show as much as a real person, like people see you, and then don't be afraid to show your mistakes. People like that. People want you to show them that you're not this godlike figure, right? Like you might have success or whatever, but you might be ahead on certain things that they don't know, like, business strategy, for example. But that doesn't mean that, you're human too, right? And when you show that side of you, it really helps people to feel more comfortable about opening up to you, about reaching out to you, and just give you the chance. Sometimes that's all you need, because you can have the best services, the best product, but if you're not even able to get the chance to prove it, then it doesn't matter. That's when the content comes into play, because you can have, especially now with short video content, you record short video all the time, and then being able to be so versatile, right? Like you can put it on LinkedIn, put it on YouTube Shorts, put it on TikTok, put it in bam bam bam, like, and you have the same content, you just have different mediums now that you use, and it becomes really easy when you get into the rhythm of things, right? And the last thing that I have for like the pillars of the movement, right? Like the branding, the content, and then there's the publicity. And the publicity is where you leverage other people's platforms, right? I like say OPP, other people's platforms, because, kind of like you coming here to this podcast, like my audience didn't know anything about you. Now, like, you're merging that way, people might follow you and all that. And then also like when you get on, on a 10x stage, like people know that logo, they recognize that, so then they feel more entitled to like, oh, like I should give him a chance, right? So I like calling publicity the trust indicators, because it's the thing that when you go and you see us seen in these places, and then you look a podcast, you look a video of somebody in the TEDx, all these different things together. Every time that I go to a page of somebody, and one of the first things that I see is them speaking on a stage and some logos and stuff, I automatically feel way more entitled to like, okay, let me dig deeper now. But when I come to a page, I don't see no graphic design, like their cover, just no picture, or minimum effort, like all grainy, all that stuff. And it's like, look, if you are, and then like sometimes they're like, oh, branding specialist. I'm like, how? Like you don't even have your own stuff. It's crazy to me, like when I see that. So that's why like it matters, graphic design, show to people, do that content. So thanks for bringing that up, because that that's right around my alley. And that's something that, and thanks for giving me the props that I do it right, because I'm really trying. So thanks you.
Yeah, it's noticeable, not for sure.
Yeah, and it's noticeable too. I mean, I consume your content, I comment and all your stuff, and I literally found you from like in like Facebook, like just I kind of, you appear, follow you, and then suddenly your group, and then suddenly, let me just follow you on Instagram, and then boom, like I decided to send you a DM, and now we're here, right? So that's why, like, that's the power of content. If you wouldn't put in content out and stuff, like, then I wouldn't have find you and wouldn't have this, right? So that's a testimony of the power of just showing up online and showing yourself. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So that's now to wrap this up. I like to kind of like ask people, what is either the one biggest takeaway, or maybe two or three biggest takeaways that you want to leave the audience with?
The first takeaway is that you're closer than you think. And oftentimes I find people thinking that they've doing all this work and they got 90% more to actually get to their destination. And in the book Think and Grow Rich, they talked about an example where someone was 5 feet from gold, and they quit just 5 feet from gold, went back, sold all their stuff. Somebody came back, helped them out. They went through the rock, and all this gold was there, changed their life. And so many people I find are 5 feet from gold, and they just quit too soon. So I think it's like, one, addition by subtraction. I think there's some things that you need to quit doing and actually give you some more time to focus and do the deep work that you talked about on the things that actually matter. And then the second thing I would tell people is that you are legit one decision away from changing your life. Like one decision of being so fed up, being so frustrated, being so upset, disappointed, whatever the word is saying, that's it. I'm no longer doing X. That's it. I'm finally opening up my business. That's it. I'm getting rid of this person inside of my business that's a cancer. Like whatever that big thing is, so many of us think that we can't survive, that next big move. And that's such a lie. And I tell people that you have survived up until this point 100% of your bad days. And there will be more bad days, and you're going to survive those too. So you are a survivor by nature. So don't think it's going to be easy. It doesn't get easier. You just become better. But you got to make that decision, become better, whatever it is you want to become better at, and start putting in the work.
I really like that, because you're closer than you think. That's something that it's such a small phrase, right? But it means so much, especially for me, right? Because I've been doing this for a little bit over 2 years and a half now, and it's being like so, like, there's been some messy, there's been some great things, there's been so many things, and then I'm always thinking like, oh, I feel so far, but like at the same time, then I could remember just my last couple conversations and stuff, and how I'm getting partnerships with like 10x stages with like Grant Cardone and like thoughtleader.com and all these different things. It's like, damn, like I just have to be patient, and like I'm closer than I think, and that's something that thanks for really telling me that, because I feel like I kind of needed it. So thanks for that. Oh man, like, this has been a pleasure to have. I love sports. I'm a very competitive guy, so I knew that bringing you here is gonna be something we all don't have a similar nature, right, of that competitiveness, and then now being in the business strategy, right, like go lean to the PR side of things a little more, right, the movement and stuff that I do, but still like business strategy in a way. It's just like I lean towards more the image. But thanks for taking the time. Really, like it's been really really pleasant for me. So I know there's gonna be some people that wanna find you, and obviously, you know, like you probably have many ways to find you, but what's your preferred way for people to find you?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Gary Brackett, just my name. I typically respond back to comments there. So if I said something that resonated with you, you can definitely reach out there. For business owners looking to 3x their business while saving time, putting the systems and strategies, champsco.com is where you can find information about my coaching program and how I help small business owners, kind of scale and grow and kind of, not be overwhelmed while they're doing it.
Thank you for sharing that. Made it pretty simple, and then like always, I'm gonna put the links in the description, but I like to kind of the audience to hear from you. So thanks again for taking the time. This was great, and I hope that we can have more conversations and build something together, maybe. So that would be cool.
All right, man. Sounds great.
Okay,
right,
perfect. So this was Gary Brackett and Foo, and this is us signing off.
Thanks for listening to Moments with Foo with your host, Foo. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.